After some weeks, Umuatubuoma in Akebugu will celebrate Ubunchi, and Umweze will celebrate Nume the same month. Umuatubuoma and Amibu in Akebugu did not participate on the day of Igwe Akebwe. Instead, they had their own shrine called Ubunchi for Umuatubuoma and Amibu for Amibu. See page 170 for details. You can also see in page 163 to 172. After Igwe Igoyi, meaning All Souls Days, took place the following day, followed by Obiaka, while Mkpofu marks the end of the feast. Mkpofu means concluding the feast. See page 172 for more details.
Man, we put on your shirt. Yeah, Obachi Dube. Man, we put on body. Yeah, you sir. Are you okay? No, but also we ask for the end of the way. There's a man and they got it to the square. He makes me in a car. Cherokee, he got that. Bastard, he makes me get a car. I know when come back, I took the no border. She, for you and the equipment, and the bread and West of Fortune, it's way to high. They can't do. My day, no one is patient way. Only wish you were a Nigeria. And he is a researcher in anthropology. He has anthropology, which educated in the Taylor can do born to marry. When I'm with Europe. What do you get to them? My share, cake and I get another Nigerian. Came back to the white gun. They know he took talent. Him came with that one Nigerian. What? Shafan with it. I swear my car, why you were my Italy, where Renaissance began. What the work out with some work? Then how that will go again? It will king jacket when Egypt. The guy and I just yes, so you close up. May share for a woman. Yes, so you close up. But no, I'm one. Ah, young. I'm never it was a Kumukwana, Mutabana. Look back and the Johnny Bent or Dana. I know Canada should yesterday yet. So back to the Italian. Or where shall you? Hey, look here. I made a point of being here today. And I came here to make a point. No. They get the word that's inside in here. Oh, can I? That's not the point. That's not why I'm invited. I don't need you to have an actually, we had one more than 4 hours. Many people do it. We should force a 101. Ije na pencil eke. Aka m jiwe pencil na amụ nna ya oji. President Yorum this invitation for Moga. Come down now, you make this point. No, Awkunanaw. They will keep Dakata. I should back now, Nnaji. Kogon can do it. What in even? She needs a weapon in even. Where shall I hear now? Where's the way? Talk to say.
I'm going to any picture of when I get a chat and there, but to buy. Autumn come, die away, will you walk one about? Yabia will lodge. Or cool one. I will away, Yabia. And when you matter about because. And when no more Awkunanaw so be ala yiri no na ehie be no ya bia wo lodge dai ebuye ebe okay oya boya mo do Awkunanaw biko one time ai na ye wo lodge na wi gbe bai na wo na e wo yo so wo ya ataku na ba biko ka na me ko na gaga dai ai wo ya ataku biko ai ya nkia Ataku. Away ma to Boma. Because you were a yaki.
I'm telling you, you can. Return, I can. I come get it. Aha! Oh, baby, come on, I'm to
Childbirth was what gave everybody joy. When a woman conceives, she was expected to deliver in 9 months' time. On the day of labor, a native midwife and any experienced aged woman will make sure that she delivered safely. Ide nwata mmanụ n'iru, meaning marking of oil on the forehead of the baby. Ide nwata mmanụ n'iru took place immediately a child was born, but in a situation whereby the child wasn't born in the same compound with the person that would anoint the child. A day would be fixed on when the baby be taken to the person that would anoint the child. But if by mistake the person that would anoint the baby saw the child and the mother anywhere while the child had not been anointed, he would quickly look for red oil at any nearby house and anoint the baby. Their belief was that the child and such person did not have to see each other if the child was not anointed, otherwise the baby might die, or the baby and such person might not be in good terms when the baby grew up. Ide nwata mmanụ n'iru, which is anointing the baby, was done by the grandfather of the child, but if he is dead, the father of that child would anoint the baby. Palm oil was dropped on the ground, and the person anointing the child would touch the palm oil and touch the child's forehead with palm oil. He used his own forehead to touch the child's own and dropped the child gently on the ground and picked the child up again 3 times. But in a situation where the child had not been given a name, he called the child by the name of the market days in which the child was born. For example, if the child was born on Eke Day, he called the child by name Okeke or Nweke. He kept calling the baby's name and touching the forehead with palm oil continuously until 3 or 4 times. He still has the right to name the baby on that same day. The child was sometimes presented to the family gods for initiation. The baby's hands were touched on farm tools like hoe, machete, digger, and so many other farm tools. And this signified the wish of the family for him or her to be a good farmer. The man anointing the baby gave the child gifts of any kind, blessed the child, and handed the child over to the grandmother or the mother if the grandmother was dead. All the people that witnessed the ceremony would also present to the mother of the child some gifts. Ibe ugwu or Iviepi, meaning circumcision. After the birth of a child between 7 and 8 days, circumcision was performed on the girls. Women were circumcised at a tender age, while men were circumcised when they were mature enough to marry. Nudity. Girls were totally naked up to marriage age. Matured girls walked round naked with jigida beads worn on their waists. Any girl or boy, especially the girls who suddenly started to cover her nakedness, was believed to have been disvirgined. See page 195 for details. Marriage. Marriage process in pre-colonial Awkunanaw was consultation, introduction with kola nut, wine carrying, mmayoha or mmayomunna, which is general wine carrying, and payment of bride price. In Awkunanaw, marriage was of many types, although different customs and traditions were reorganized in finding marriage partners. For example, at the birth of a female child, an interested family friend with the aim of establishing marriage relationship would always go to the girl's house to pour water in her itudu on behalf of his son or for himself. If this was accepted, then marriage had been contracted between the two families. In some cases, the man might even die before the girl had grown to the stage of getting married. Sometimes, the choice was made by the parents even before the child was born. Two pregnant women could decide to contract marriage between their unborn children if they were going to be a boy and a girl. Secondly, on the other hand, a man could decide to give his daughter's hand in marriage to the son of his best friend just to cement their relationship. Sometimes, the girls were forcefully given to men out of their own will. In those days, some parents present their daughters as a gift to chiefs or prominent men in appreciation for one thing or the other. Thirdly, in Awkunanaw, marriage could also be contracted as a result of hard work on the side of both parties. A girl of exceptional character and ability in farming and dancing married early enough. Traditional wrestlers, good hunters, and wealthy farmers were attracted to beautiful girls. Marriage was also contracted through human labor. For example, when a man found a girl he wanted to marry, he had to meet the parents of the girl and declare his intention to marry their daughter. Both parties would agree on how many market days the man would have to work on their farmland. At the completion of such labor, the girl would then be given to the man as his wife with little or no bride price paid. Fourthly, another type of marriage in Awkunanaw was bride price marriage. It involved performing the necessary marriage ceremonies, which the suitor have to pay 4 special visits to his in-laws. The most elderly man from the groom's side would start by making an introduction to the bride's umunna. The oldest man from the girl's family would welcome them, and the girl would be invited and asked if they should accept the kola nut. The girl with shyness and smiles on her face would say yes, and a kola nut would be broken from the kola the groom had come with, and prayers were made by the most elderly man in the bride's family, proclaiming all good wishes and successful discussion. Palm wine would be given to the girl to give to the groom as an open acceptance. But if her answer was no, the marriage would be cancelled. But in pre-colonial times, it was rare for a girl to say no because she had no power of her own. Her parents decided for her on whom to marry. On their second visit, the groom would come with pots of palm wine and kola nuts. He came with few friends and his kinsmen, while the girl also invited few friends and her kinsmen would also be present. Food was also served. On their third visit, they also came with friends and umunna with pots of wine and kola nuts, and the bride also invited her friends. Then discussion concerning the bride price followed. The bride price was sometimes paid before or the day of Mmanyoha. In pre-colonial Awkunanaw, the number of palm wine brought by the groom varied. They were not fixed or mandatory. It was according to one's financial capability. However, after the first, second, and third visit before general wine carrying, the groom's kinsmen and parents took kola nut and palm wine to accompany the bride to her husband's house, while the groom stayed at home waiting for their arrival as the Umunna represented him at the bride's house. While going to meet her husband, she will carry the empty pot of palm wine brought by her husband's kinsmen that has already been lavished to meet the entire family in her husband's house with gifts given to her by her parents. This kind of visit was called Iseneite, literally means taking pot home. She was to stay for 1 Igbo native week, which is 4 days made up of Eke, Ovie, Afo, and Nkwo. The bride was meant to stay with her mother-in-law instead of the groom, and the groom kept away from her since it was not proper for both of them to touch each other or share the same bed until every rite had been performed. When she would be going back to meet her parents, she would be given some gifts including 4 tubers of yam, representing 4 days that made up 1 Igbo native week. After the visit, the groom's parents and bride would know if the marriage would continue or not. If the bride was treated well and if the groom's parents were satisfied with the behavior of the bride, a day would be fixed to complete the wine carrying. The bride was taken to her husband's house only on Ovie and Nkwo day and must be in the evening or in the night. The reason why it was in the night was for the girl not to recognize the road she passed through to her husband's house, so that she would not come back to her parents if they had misunderstanding. On that day, when the suitor and his kinsmen arrived at the bride's compound, the in-laws welcomed them warmly. The elders on the girl's side inspected the drinks the suitor came with to know if it was complete. If it was not complete, the family members would reject the drinks until a reasonable negotiation was reached. On the said day, kola nut and palm wine will be presented to the bride's kinsmen with a large earthen pot called Iten Rorake Roho. But the number or size of pots of palm wine varied depending on the capability of the groom and his family. Palm wine was given to the oldest man in the bride's family to pour libation and pray, wishing the couple a successful and happy married life with long life, peace and many children. He handed the cup of wine to the bride to give to her husband. On reaching to where her husband was sitting, she squatted, sipped the wine and handed it over to her husband with smile as people laughed and clapped for them, after which both of them stood up and danced. It was a big occasion for the families of both parties and the entire village and town as well. Friends and well-wishers were invited to witness the ceremony. Food and palm wine were also served. The people of Awkunanaw believed that a girl was not married if her bride price was not paid.
Anyị ji dị iche bụ na anyị ejiri oke ego anụ nwaanyị, anyị ejiri na ịgbara okorobịa anụ nwaanyị. Ihe anyị ji anụ nwaanyị bụ ijote ezigbo agbụrụ, maka na tupu anyị anụọ nwaanyị ma na a ga-abịa lụrụ nwaanyị, anyị ga-ajụ ma ebe nwaanyị na-eje ma ebe anyị na-eje anụta nwaanyị, ma ha bụ ndị na-akwụ ụdọ. Anyị ada anụ onye na-akwụ ụdọ maka ịnụta ya ewere ihe ahụ ndị be ha na-eme ọ ga-eme ya. Ma ndị na-egbu mma, ọ bụ ndị oke obi ọkụ, ịnụta ụdị mmadụ ahụ ọ na-enye nsogbu, ya na a na-ajụ ese ọfụma. Ewe ndị nke ala dị n'ọbara, ịnụta ndị ara dị n'ọbara, ewee mekọta ka nwaanyị nụtara ghara iwe ara ma ọ bụ nwa nke ọ mụrụ. Ya bụ na ụmụ ihe a ka a na-enyocha tupu anyị anụọ nwaanyị ma ọ bụ alụrụ nwa nke anyị.
For more details, see page 206 of the book, Life in the Village. In pre-colonial Awkunanaw, a woman's happiness and prosperity entirely rested on the goodwill of her husband. She had no say or rights in her home. She was the property of her husband and was married to bear children, help in farm work, cook for her husband, and take care of the children and the household. The only property she possessed was her cooking utensil, water pot and calabash. She respected and feared her husband. She had only a few rights in her household, and that right could only be given to her by her husband. She accepted any situation she found herself without grumbling. Men were always the head. They enjoyed all the good things life could offer. They made laws, ate everything, and were free to enter everywhere. But women were restricted from most of those things. It was the duty of women to fetch water for the household. Their children, especially grown-up girls, often helped in housework. Women and their children got up early in the morning before greeting anybody, washed their faces and hands, greeted everybody before beginning the activities of the day. Before the day broke, they had fetched the early morning water with their large clay pots, and most of the streams were far from their houses. At the stream, they bathed and washed their dirty clothes before going back home. Some men also went to the stream to take their baths. There was nothing like shyness in pre-colonial Awkunanaw, since men and women bathed in open place without bearing any evil in mind. Obubu. Obubu is the act of digging a wide round hole inside a flowing river, after which a clean water, good for drinking, was fetched from it. That was where the pre-colonial Awkunanaw people fetched their drinking water. But this can only be done during the dry season, especially at the peak of the Harmattan. It was available during Harmattan because the river has to get dry to a certain stage before Obubu can be dug. When dried to a certain stage, women will look for a corner or a place inside the river that is not deep and dug a round hole in the river using their hand. After digging, the muddy water that came out of it would be continuously removed until the water became clean for drinking. Rivers that were mainly used for Obubu are Atavo and the Nyama River, though the people still have other small streams. where they fetch their drinking water. Mgbamiri. Women make small vegetable farms between the river during dry season. This type of farm was known as Mgbamiri, literally means watering of farm. Women and their children visit this farm every morning. They watered the farm every morning and evening to enable it to grow well. Manure was also applied on the farm for proper growth. Vegetables that were cultivated beside this river were very fresh. Water leaf, green and pumpkin leaf called ogo were also cultivated. When the leaf matured, it would be harvested for sale. People who had small farms do not sell theirs. They only prepare it as cuisine for their household. Some Igbo native foods are akidi, angara leaf, achicha made from cocoyam, akpu, iwobe, uwa, abacha, which is tapioca, uwaibe, and uchakere. Traditional burial rites and funeral ceremonies in Awkunanaw. When death occurred, people, especially women and children of the deceased, cried and rolled on the ground while the news started to circulate all over the place as people rushed to the house of the deceased to console and sympathize with them. A common word used in Awkunanaw to console the person was ka, meaning sorry, jiwe, meaning take heart. The elders would gather round the premises to arrange for the burial and to examine if the deceased lived a good or bad life and to know if he deserves a sound burial or not. If the deceased had committed a taboo, he would be deprived of a befitting burial. While preparing for the burial, the deceased would be laid on a bed with a slight burning fire under to keep the body dry from decay or smelling until a proper arrangement was made. Some men would gather close to the dead body singing and playing Akobi music by hitting their chest heavily while singing. Some were busy playing Avu. Avu was a great song sung into the invocations of the histories of lineages while drinking palm wine to keep the family company. The corpses were washed and rubbed with ufie, kenwood dye, and palm kernel oil and the hair shaved. Cotton wool was used to close the nostril. Another procedure was digging the grave. The family members, especially the first son, was to decide where the dead should be buried. Men were buried in front of the house, while women were buried behind or beside the house. Children and people who were not married were buried outside the compound. It was believed in Awkunanaw and Igbo land in general that any person that was being denied a fitting burial roamed about, disturbing people, especially his relatives, and sometimes causing hardship in the family and premature death until his right is given to him. They believed that these ceremonies would help the soul of the deceased to rest in peace in the midst of the ancestors. In some cases, a wealthy man was buried with Anunese Dinono, which is 5 domestic animals like cow, horse, goat, dog, and fowl. And in some occasions, when an important man or a hero died, human beings, especially slaves, were mashed or beaten to death or thrown into the grave alive. The slaves were put in the grave with their faces touching the ground and the body of the deceased hero placed on top before the tomb was finally filled or closed to honor the deceased. The reason was for the slaves to accompany him and to serve him in the spirit world. But before the corpse would be covered, the family members of the deceased were to drop sand inside the grave, one after the other, as they cried for the last time, bidding farewell. Oh, nah, he has gone. Ga nke ọma, go well, Ijeoma, farewell, as the corpse was finally buried. Then the family members and relatives would gather in front of his house and cried as people consoled them. However, after the burial of the man, gunshots were fired into the air to inform the spirits and the neighbors that the dead had been buried. Food and drinks were also cooked to entertain their guests. Everybody in the family had his or her hair shaved. It was a sign of respect to the deceased, and it also indicated that a sad event had taken place in the family. Suggestion: eating and drinking should only take place where there is celebration and not where people are mourning. But we shall look into that in the next edition. Funeral ceremony. Ikwozu. The funeral ceremony is of vital importance to the spirit of the departed one and was the last of all the ceremonies that was performed for the dead. It was believed in Awkunanaw that without these ceremonies, he had not secured any position in the spirit world. Hence there is a saying, "Inagarabi" or "Akwughari ka ozu a na-akwa ha akwa," literally means you are roaming about like a dead whose funeral ceremony has not been performed. The funeral ceremony was more of feasting than mourning. Before the ceremony commenced, guns, cannons, which is monala, were fired to inform the spirit of the deceased to get prepared to join the other ancestors and to inform the neighbors and friends that the ceremony would take place the following day. The next day, dancing groups from different places and masquerades were all invited to displace and partake in the burial ceremony. Some dancing groups like Nkwa and the Ikpa music groups were for men, while Opereke music group was for women. Igede music was played if only the deceased was a male and had killed cows when he was still alive to honor his late father. Igede music was also danced by only men who had killed cow on the funeral ceremonies of their fathers. A woman was free to dance with her husband or brother who had killed cow or given to his in-law. Food and drinks were also served. Cows, goats, fowls, and dogs were slaughtered according to one's capability. The number of cows and goats one was able to afford determined his title names such as Ogbuefi, Ogbuzroha, and Ofeyeya. Any man who by any means did not perform the funeral ceremonies of his fathers would equally not be buried with funeral rites until his father's rites had been performed. See page 244 for details. We also have titles like Ogbuefi, Ofeyeya, Igbenezoroha, Anukeyi, and Ogbunagodo, but Ogbunagodo was titled name for women only. Ogbuefi means killing of cow. It was a title given to someone who donated cows to his people or who killed cows on the burial ceremony of his deceased father or mother. Igbenezoroha meaning sky that sends rain for the people. It was a title given to a person who performed his father's funeral ceremony creditably and it rained on that day. It would be regarded that even the sky came to honor the ceremony. On that day, animals like horse, cow, goats, and many others were also provided. Masquerade. Masquerade was believed to be spirits. Masquerading was one of the most important socio-cultural activities of Awkunanaw people, especially in pre-colonial period. Masquerade was regarded as a secret cult, so was not open to women and children, but women of exceptional status could be initiated into the masquerade cult. There were many types of masquerades in Awkunanaw, namely Egwugwu, Ijere, Inyagboku, Achikwu, Omebe, Akatapa, Ekpe, Egbeja, Ugweja, Agubata, Atuedu, Okwatonchi, Eyim, Ugwudike, Agaba, Oganigwe, Enebechi, Igariga, Nezede, Eduwodu, Adammanwu, Oriokpa, Okoroji, Ogbaji Enete, Okanga, and Ukpokpishi. But the most popular ones were Egwugwu, Ijere, Inyagboku, Achikwu, and Omebe. Egungun masquerade was like that of a house. It did not come out anyhow, but each time it was invited for any function, a cow must be given to it. According to history, the masquerade cult started in Awkunanaw at the end of 19th century. It was introduced into Awkunanaw by Nike, who learnt the act from Aro in the course of slave trade. According to Ngenebani, Ogofia people were the first to start practicing masquerade in Awkunanaw. Okanga was learnt from the people of Owo in Amechi Dodo. Amuzam taught Obara Akebwe the act of masquerading. Neke people in Agbaja introduced Omebe to Amu the people, while Nike taught Obaru Ekpe. There were some other masquerades Abugo people taught Awkunanaw. Boys from 10 years and above were also due for initiation into masquerade cult. On the day of the initiation, the boy's father offered palm wine, fowl or goat to be slaughtered according to one's capability, and food was also served to the members of the masquerades. The boys were then taken to the place where they would be initiated into the masquerade cult. In the course of initiation, they were asked to lie down with their stomachs and eyes facing the ground, and the masquerade flogged them as they roll on the ground in pains. It was part of the initiation in order to beat off Obodo's stupidity from them. There were masquerades that operated at night, while some did so during the day. People believed that these masquerades were resurrected dead spirits. That was why people feared and respected them. Anybody who contravened the rules and regulations of the masquerade cult, such as revealing the secrets of the masquerade society, mocking or disgracing the masquerade publicly, was given a heavy punishment such as destruction of offender's house and property, excommunication, and fine. Another type of masquerade in pre-colonial Awkunanaw was Achiku. The night masquerade known as Achiku performed or appeared only at night. Men who were not initiated into the night masquerade cult was not allowed to see the night masquerade. Night masquerade forbids candle, lamp and torchlight or any form of light. The voice of night masquerade could go very far. These were to keep everybody at alert and to make it known to everybody that he was passing by, because if anybody was caught on the road, the person could be killed, or if any house was seen with lights, that house would be destroyed or the head of that house would be killed. Masquerade came up twice or once in a year. For example, Ogudike in Acharamu Awkunanaw comes out every year to display. Any day it came out, somebody must be born, and when it is going, somebody must die. Every masquerade had a house or shrine where the members met and played their music. In pre-colonial Awkunanaw, those festivals like Igwanu, which feature a lot of masquerades, drew home the indigenes of Awkunanaw living far and near. They invited their friends from different places to witness these events. The British colonial rule in Awkunanaw. This is where the British soldiers first penetrated when they visited Awkunanaw. Awkunanaw area was visited by the British during the year 1907 to 1909. During the early period of colonial rule, Awkunanaw people strongly opposed British rule. During the Udi Patrol of 1909, the detachment of British troops arrived at Awkunanaw. They settled at Udi in 1910, from where they administered the Awkunanaw area. Awkunanaw belonged to Udi division during this period, and Udi was the administrative headquarters of Udi and the Nkanu areas. The warriors of Awkunanaw usually gathered at Nkwonu market. One morning, The Awkunanaw people had a meeting at Nkwonu Market Square in Akebubu when Chief Chukwuani Nwangwu of Ozala led the British soldier into Akebubu village. The soldiers used machine guns to fire and killed so many people. The area suffered much destruction in the hands of colonial soldiers. But Awkunanaw, in collaboration with Akpugu and Amegunze, unleashed several attacks on the British colonial personnel in Udi. The attack was initiated by the people of Akebugu, and the Allied force took off from Nkwonu Market in Akebugu. Awkunanaw people left Nkwonu Market to Ugunchi and began their assault on the soldiers. Chief Chukwuani and his son, Nwankwo Chukwuani, supervised the railway workers. The workers were paid in coins, but the coins were collected by Chief Chukwuani, which made the people to suffer. Chief Chukwuani in 1920 sent 260 recruits every month for 8 months to work in the mines, which he received £400 per annum for organizing them. Warrant chiefs in Awkunanaw. Many courts were established by the British in Igbo land, and some individuals were given warrants. That was how these chiefs came to be called warrant chiefs. The duties of these warrant chiefs was to collect taxes from the villagers, administering the area, and dispense native laws. Chief Chukwuani Nwangwu of Ozala was issued a warrant in 1910 and was the first warrant chief in the whole Nkanu area. Chief Chukwuani was controlling Nkanu, Agbaja, and Obo. The warrant chiefs in Awkunanaw were Igweshi Mbene from Obofia, Nnaji from Akebubu, Mbowo from Amodu, Nnaji from Amechi, and Abowebiem from Obagu. They were all meant to supervise their various communities. There were also war chiefs in Awkunanaw called Sariki. These men were appointed to monitor the activities of the people. Each towns in Awkunanaw had their own Sariki, such as Onwuchi Godwin from Obofia, Ignatius Nnaji from Akebubu, James Ngene from Apuke, Emmanuel Ugwebu from Amodu, Ogbonna Onovo from Umwezi, Anthony Nwobodabo from Amechi, Samson Oko from Obago, and Christian Ewu from Ugwaji. They were in charge of relief materials and to protect their people from the danger of civil war. See page 266 for more details. The coming of the Church Missionary Society in Awkunanaw. There were 3 Christian missionaries in Awkunanaw and Enugu, namely the Church Missionary Society, the Roman Catholic Mission, and the Methodist Society. The major factors that encouraged the missionary penetration in Awkunanaw were the Udi Patrol of 1914, the Eastern Railway of 1915, and the Nkanu Patrol of 1922. Guns and Bibles were used to forcefully subject the people into colonial rule, so the missionaries entered into Awkunanaw, making their first stop at Agbani, from where they penetrated all the towns in Awkunanaw. At the beginning, parents allowed their children to go to school and church, but later, their children started to reject their traditional beliefs. They also abandoned their cattle and goats they grazed for their parents. This resulted in some parents to withdraw their children from schools and churches. Bribes were also given to the missionaries by some villagers to withdraw their children from school. The beginning of Methodist Church was associated with John Wesley. This is the first Methodist school that was established in Awkunanaw in 1917, called Methodist Central School, Obagu, Awkunanaw, now known as Community School, Obagu, Awkunanaw. It was established in Amodu in 1923, Amechi in 1926, Okorome 1927, in Ugwaji 1928, Umweze 1934, in Obofia 1944, and it was transferred from Okorome to the present-day Apasha Boys Secondary School in 1950s. That was where most of our fathers schooled in colonial Awkunanaw. The first Roman Catholic school in Awkunanaw was established in Mechi in 1917 called St. Matthew's Roman Catholic School, Mechi, Awkunanaw. Later, it was called St. Matthew's Primary School, Mechi, Awkunanaw. It was established in Akebugu in 1927, in Akuke 1937, and in Ugwaji in 1940s.